second in the National League, or is it the majors? I think it's in the majors. 36 runs and 38 RBIs to go with 4 stolen bases. Ladies and gentlemen, George Springer is putting together one heck of a year. Okay? So, that's the cream of the crop. Who's some other hotties? Who's some other players that we are probably coveting right about now because of the performance they've done over the past 7 days? I'll give you a handful, okay? How about the Stars first? How about Rafa Devers, guys? Third baseman for Boston. Arnie and I talked about him, buying him low a couple weeks back. Well, folks, I think that ship sailed. In the past week, Devers hit .545. Again, softball numbers. He was 12 for 22. He had a homer, 4 runs, and 7 RBIs. Hell, he even threw in a stolen base to boot. He's a hottie. Jorge Polanco's a hottie. Guys, over the past week, he's hit .370. 2 homers, 3 runs, and 7 RBIs. He's having a career year. He's someone that continues to exceed expectations. I continue to see him continue to do that for the rest of the year. Chris Bryant, guys, remember he's another one we were talking about, buy low. Not so much anymore, right? Artie says Devers could be the governor of mass. I don't doubt it right now. Him and Chavis both, right? I know Chavis has quieted a little bit, but boy, those kids are kind of carrying the torch right now, huh? So, here's a guy that I think's funny. I was getting ready to write him off. This is one of Arnie's boys. Domingo Santana. Had him on my cold list. Was getting ready to dog him. Then he turns around and goes 9 for 26 this week. 346 average. 1 homer, 5 runs, and 5 RBIs. Domingo Santana continues to impress. Every time you think he starts to go away, he has a resurgence. And speaking of resurgence, how about Justin Turner? Arnie says Chavis hit a 450-foot bomb tonight. Chavis has some of the fastest hands I've seen, Arnie. I love watching that guy hit because he is just so quick through the zone. Justin Turner has 5 homers in the past 7 days, folks. He's hitting .417, 8 runs and 10 RBIs. Guys, Justin Turner's. He is really starting to pick it up. How about Michael Brantley? Michael Brantley in the last 7 days hit .375, 3 homers, 5 runs, and 5 RBIs. One more guy from the Stars list. How about Mr. Blackmon? Charlie Blackmon is hitting .400. 4 homers, 9 runs, and 5 RBIs in the last 7 days. So there's your Stars. How about some hotties who might be on your waiver wire? I'll start with a guy that I've been talking about for about 3 weeks now. He's starting to gain some steam. I don't know for how long. I mean, he might, but Hunter Pence, guys, Hunter Pence is having a resurgent year, folks. In the last week, Hunter Pence is hitting .368 with 4 homers, 9 runs, and 12 RBIs. Here's a guy who changes scenery. He's hitting in a park that the ball flies in the summer. It's not summer yet. Hunter Pence is someone who you could probably ride for a while. How about C.J. Cron? C.J. Cron in the last week is hitting .400, 3 homers, 4 runs, and 6 RBIs. Minnesota's offense is really hot right now, guys. Here's a guy that no one's really talked about much, who might be on your waiver wire. How about Mitch Moreland? I got him with the lesser known hotties, but he's kind of borderline, right? He's having a great year. 333, 3 homers this past week. So, one of those things where he's taking advantage of having the playing time, it's interesting to see these guys when they get the opportunity, what they do with it. So, and then lastly, how about Gregory Polanco? Again, Pittsburgh doesn't get a whole lot of notoriety, but he's hitting 459 over the last week. He's got 2 homers, 6 runs, and 8 RBIs. It's it's interesting to see some of these guys. He doesn't play a lot, Ernie, but you know what? If you need a first baseman for a week, why not plug him in? I mean, he's hitting the ball hard, right? So just it's interesting because again, this isn't my waiver wire section. This is just guys that are hot. These are guys that I noticed when I was looking at the hot list that have done well. So if you can use it, use it. You know, I'll do a little spoiler here. You will see some of these guys later on. Not a lot of them. The suspense. Okay, injury update, right? Let's go through an injury capsule. This isn't meant to be comprehensive. This isn't meant to be anything other than informative. And I've tried to keep this on a positive tip because, I'm a positive guy. Well, that's a crock. Anyway, so here's some guys who are progressing nicely. Here's some mostly guys that are progressing nicely. Guys that you might want to keep your eye on here in the next couple weeks could be of significance. Okay, start out a little bit further out, but this is a guy who I was high on before he had Tommy John surgery. How about Taijuan Walker? On Friday, he had a 23-pitch bullpen session. He is working on honing his command in, but everything is progressing well. He feels good. That is all positive. So look for him to get a rehab assignment soon, and for him to work his way back towards pitching for the Diamondbacks sometime in the second half. Another guy who's kind of flying under the radar, who got with some preliminary positive news, is Brian Johnson, a reliever for the Red Sox. So here's a guy, before he got injured, was looking at being in a leverage situation in that Red Sox bullpen. So he is scheduled to throw at Fenway Park on Saturday. So he's progressing from his elbow discomforts. Hopefully he is able to continue to show positive results because they could use... He's a different look for the Red Sox. He would definitely be someone who could benefit and probably get you some leverage rolling stats were he to be able to come back healthy. Let's talk about Jimmy Nelson. Jimmy Nelson, due to make his third rehab start Friday night in San Antonio. AAA means he's just one step away, right? So, year before last, he came back and was a significant arm down the stretch, both for the Brewers and for fantasy impact. I look for big numbers out of him down the stretch as well again this year, if he can stay healthy. The big if, I know. So here's where I want to talk about positive things, okay? So we all know the New York Yankees have kind of been a shit show in terms of injuries this year, right? They've done well with what they've had. They've certainly overachieved, but the injury list is somewhat laughable. So Arnie talked about Andujar, but I want to talk about some positives here, okay? I told you that I'm going to kind of theme with that. So I'm going to go in 3 different directions with this. The first direction I'm going to go with is, how about Didi Gregorius? So Didi Gregorius is allegedly about 10 days away from beginning extended spring training games. I'd say that's a positive. I don't know how long he's going to need to train in the spring, but I'd assume that means he's probably a month or so away from being back in pinstripes. So I'd say that's a positive. Arnie, you can chime in anytime you want and tell me if I'm wrong. I know it's your team. The next guy I want to talk about as a positive is James Paxton. So Aaron Boone reported that Paxton may not need a rehab appearance before joining the Yankees. So that's good news. So we'll look to see him back maybe sooner than we anticipated. And the third piece of Yankee news, good news, is Giancarlo Stanton took live at-bats at extended spring training on Monday. So, yeah, I mean, I think you look at those bits of information, you have to be encouraged, right? The other piece that I want to talk about is, I know, Arnie, I know you're down about Andujar, and we were all kind of skeptical about that from the beginning, right? But how about Giovanni Urshela? Not too bad, right? I mean, I 341, 2 homers, 12 runs, 15 RBIs. Kid's 27 years old. He's never really been given an opportunity. I'm not saying you roster him for the rest of the year, but he's serviceable right now. If you need a third baseman, if you need a corner infielder, you could do worse. Just my take on it, okay? So we'll transition from Arnie's team to one of my teams. I mean, I'm a Cubs fan, but I do like the Pirates. Guys, I'll tell you, when Arnie's saying Ursula is a team MVP, it's hard to disagree with that at this point, right? As much attrition as they've been through, he's certainly been a glowing positive for him. So we'll see, once they start getting these studs back, how that works out. But you gotta like what you see out of that kid. So the Pirates, and I told you I was gonna be positive. I got 2 things I'm gonna be negative with you. Okay. How about if I told you I could pinpoint the exact moment when the Pirates season kind of fell apart? Nick Burdi. Nick Burdi was the glue to the Pirates pitching staff. And when that guy got hurt, it has all been very tumultuous since then. I mentioned that because he was transferred to the 60-day DL list. So look for him not to be back for a while. But pivoting back to the positive, okay? Pivoting back to the positive. Chris Archer, due to start tomorrow, coming back from his thumb injury. So that'll be a big bump for the Buccos, right? Look for him to come back and be the same Chris Archer that we knew at the beginning of the year. Even though he'd faltered a little bit. Maybe the thumb had something to do with that. Some other guys. Well, one other guy I wanted to mention who's kind of being a pain in my butt is D. Gordon. He's not on the IL. He's just not playing. So you can't do anything with him. You just have to sit there and watch him not play. Talking about him maybe coming back in the next day or two. But he's still out of the lineup. So that's my injury capsule. I hope I kept it fairly positive. It is injuries, so you got to bring a few negatives in, I didn't even make mention. I didn't even make mention of the Tyler Glasnow injury. I'll spare it. Well, apparently not. Some agony. It's not really unfortunate what happened to him, but so moving on. This is my favorite segment. So here we are, May 14th, 2019, right? And this section we're talking about stats normalization, okay? And I started thinking back to, it's all about finding these guys riding the coattails, getting on before at the ground floor when they're getting ready to take off, right? That's what we're all trying to do. But it started me thinking about like guys that are not doing real well, that maybe